Penny Bradley, welcome to Nature of Reality Radio. Welcome back, I should say. I'm letting you come back on because our previous interview got the boot off YouTube for some reason. I didn't even get a chance to listen to the part. I don't think if I clicked on that, I would have actually found the part that I would have had to listen to. So they deleted it, and there was no way for me to listen to it. It's YouTube for you. And, well,
You don't keep a recording of your shows?
oh yeah, I do, but I didn't
I
actually
do.
care. I didn't care to. I was clicking on from the YouTube site. So, but anyway,
Okay.
I'm giving you the chance to get some justice now. So people may have listened to our past interview, but hey, even if you did, maybe there's some important stuff to come on. Maybe everything happens for a reason, and I'm sure maybe Penny's got some important things to talk about. So Penny, I listen to Michael Sala's weekly update on secret space program. That's my general way of getting the news. But you got your stuff. There, we can go on and on with this. So Penny Bradley, why don't you introduce yourself and what you experienced, caused you the stuff you do, and then anything important you want to get out, please get it out now because we'll go for an hour and 40 minutes or so will be free. The rest will be paid for you.
Okay. I'm Penny Bradley, and my memories of my time in the Black Ops were activated by NSA agents in 2013. I had anomalies, weird dreams, flashbacks with no reason, what they're now calling complex PTSD with absolutely no reason for it. So when the memories were activated, they made the rest make sense. So yeah, I believed them. So in 2013, I had this memory core dump from an entire lifetime just plopped all at once in this big lump, and it was all in German. Now, I had studied German back in high school, but that was in the 70s. I mean, really, that's 50 years ago plus. So we're looking at, I really don't remember the grammar. I have trouble with the vocabulary. I don't remember noun genders. So when I try to speak it, I screw it up. I understand more now than I did in 2013, but I've been making an effort to. I had all the traumatic stuff was on top. So at the very top of the pile were raptors straight out of Jurassic Park coming into a cafeteria full of kids in school uniforms. And I had to figure out where that was. So it sure wasn't here. And at that point, I started researching, doing everything I could to figure out what am I remembering? And so if I tell you something, I can also usually tell you who else has talked about it and what time frame and whether or not it relates to what I'm talking about. Now, I'm not channeling. 90% of the people in my community are. They're just pulling it out of the ether. I'm not. These are real experiences that I really had, and the memories were activated in 2013. Why the NSA chose to do that, I have no idea. The two men that were involved with it were both killed in 2016, so I can't ask them. They were killed after I went public. So this is a serious thing. And for folks who want proof, no, I don't have a DD-214. But I did have an NSA, CIA archivist come forward and say she had uploaded my file to the CIA computer and that what I talk about was in the file. She's been surprised by some of the things that I didn't remember. But everything I've talked about has been in the file. So that's as close to verification as someone like me is going to get. Now, I had 5 years at Langley where I was mind fractured. And if you guys don't mind, I'd rather not go over that process again because I have to relive it for you guys to understand it. And frankly, I'm working on the PTSD. So they spent the first 1.5 years mind fracturing me. Then 6 months at Montauk, where they figured out what I could do in the chair. I ran away a lot in the chair, with the chair, took the chair with me when I ran away. So they decided that that meant I was a navigator because I could go interdimensional and take physical objects with me. And that made me, I don't know, because they consider us slaves. It's not like it's me being important or something, but I was of more value as an asset because I could do that. That meant I would replace an ET on a ship. These programs have been going on. The earliest I've been able to document was the Sonora Aero Club in the 1850s. They were using anti-grav engines then, and they were from Prussia, which is now part of Germany. At the time, it was its own country. And so these programs have been going on since the 1850s. And that's one of the things people can't wrap their mind around. They think everything started with Roswell. No, it started 100 years before that, at least. That's what I can document. So we had all these people in between 1850s and World War II that have been working on these programs. And then in World War II, the guy's running Germany, and I'm not going to name him because that's a good reason to get a video deplatformed. But the Germans in space that I worked with considered him to be a traitor to the German people because he switched from the German aristocracy who had put him in power to the Jesuits, who are their hereditary enemies. So there's a lot more behind the scenes than just him. And I know people don't want to look at any depth. They just want to look at a surface, good versus bad, and that's it. There's a lot more to that story than people think. And in fact, I'm writing a book about why the Germans went into space. So, and I'm using 3D real Earth documentation for it. So this is one of the things that I do talk about. When I was 9 years old, I was turned over to the Germans on Mars. And they don't want idiots in their military. And I had spent 5 years at Langley, and they had not even taught me English. I was 4 when I was there, taken there, and they didn't teach any schooling. They taught psi abilities and how to kill people. So this 9-year-old who has been taught to kill people with her mind shows up on Mars with this group of German people. And the first thing they did was put me in Schule with their own kids. They didn't want an idiot. So I have alters that serve in American programs, and they only train you for the job you're going to do. They don't want you to think. They want you to obey, follow orders. The Germans want you to be able to think on your feet. So it's a completely different worldview out there. And these guys generally don't work together because the Germans don't trust them. They have seen Solar Warden developed as a way to take World War II back into space to them. And so they no longer trust Americans because I was so young when I was given to them. They consider me one of their own. So that I try to tell a balanced story about everybody out there because nobody is 100% bad or 100% good. And what I've seen out there is the worst part of humanity on display, no matter what faction they're working with. They go out, they rape planets for resources, they capture the civilian population and sell them into slavery. That's what we do out there. And all of the programs are manned by kidnapped children. That's the reality of the secret space program. And anybody who is talking about it like it's glorious or fun like a video game needs to go back and really look at their memories because this isn't fun. I'm public for 2 reasons. In 2016, they started shooting me with energy weapons. And I talked to my partner because they were shooting him too. They planned to get rid of both of us. And I told him, Bill Cooper said, if you know they're going to kill you, to hide in the spotlight. That way, when they do kill you, at least people know why. And it will verify your testimony. So I've had DOD agents tell me that going public was the smartest thing that I ever did because they can't kill me now without verifying my testimony. And I've had skeptics and folks in the general public say, well, if you're telling the truth, why are you still alive? Because I am telling the truth, and I just plopped it all out there the first year I was public. Now, my testimony has changed a little bit over that time because I've reintegrated other alters that filled in the picture. I have 2,200 alters. At this point today, May 5th, 2024, I have reintegrated 38 alters. So I have 38 different stories in my head that kind of mesh. They're describing the same culture. They're describing the same kinds of behaviors. Now, I've also been asked why I don't automatically agree with everybody else out there. Most of the people who are public worked for the American factions. I worked with the Germans. So think about World War II. The Americans are going to tell a different story than the Germans do. The Americans are going to tell a different story than the Japanese do, or the Italians, or the Spanish, because Spain was also a fascist country. So you're going to be having to judge, is this because she's from the German side, or is this because this is the way it really works? And yeah, I expect people to think, to actually critically look at what I talk about and come up with reasons, not just well, I feel she's telling the truth. I am telling the truth, but I want you to think. I don't want you to go by just feels. I came public in 2016 because I was being shot at. I blurted out lots of information about technologies. It was all recorded by Reality Brief. They are still on YouTube. My interviews with them are still up. So you can go back and see what I talked about, because every single technology I discussed, the patents for them have been released since. Now, the last time we talked, it was mostly about my blog that's from 2012, 2013, just before my memories were reactivated. And yeah, I was a truther and doing research and deep research, and I had come to some conclusions that are now considered to be dangerous. The blog is still up. I go through periodically and make sure that the links work. Unfortunately, they've been scrubbing the internet of a lot of that information. So did my best, but I did a year's worth of blogs, and they were how I was thinking before the memories were activated. So if you want to see a before and after, that's a pretty good way to do it. Now, as far as my video being deleted from your channel, I had to stop uploading to YouTube because they decided that I was inciting violence. They never gave me a reason. But I did a Montauk roundtable with the survivors, not the perps. And that was one of the first things they took down. So my newer work from the last year and a half has all been on Odyssey because they don't censor. So you have questions?
Well, I'm going to ride the YouTube horse till it falls down dead, and I haven't been kicked off yet. So, unfortunately, for some reason, Costa.tv, the channel that I've been uploading my videos to as a backup, seems to have some sort of a glitch in the system. Every time I try to upload my most recent interview that I did, it says that there's some sort of a problem. So I hope they're not trying to censor me, but it'd be a shame if they did. All of my interviews are simultaneously, I believe, getting uploaded to Odyssey and BitChute. I believe I set that up to happen, but anyway, I'm being censored on YouTube as it is.
Yeah,
anyway,
YouTube is getting pissy. If you don't agree with their agenda, you're getting deplatformed. They have deleted at least 4 of my videos at this point, and there are threats about others. I had gotten to the point where I self-censored. If someone talked about a forbidden subject, I didn't even put it there. Those are going up. I have a Rumble, and the Rumble is like archival. Rumble's expensive. I'm at the $100 a month range. God, it's expensive. Odyssey was the best option, except Most people think it's far right and don't want to go there. It's actually got anybody's opinion. You can be right wing, left wing, whatever. They just say no personal attacks and don't show kids. I mean, simple, basic rules that any person out there would understand them.
Exactly. And there's a lot of debate over which platform will allow which stuff to be discussed, but I don't want to really get into that. We need to get out important information here. And when it comes to the secret space program, it seems like there are some people who just want to, I don't know, it seems like they're trying to lie on purpose. You got like Brad Johnson, who channels the Drones, who's actually saying there's no genuine secret space program contactee out there. And then you got Michael Horn, who like the de facto spokesperson for Billy Meyer, saying that all the contactees like Tolek, Barbara Seniak, Sheldon Idle, Gosha, Mark Kimmel, and probably even you, he would say they're all frauds, because if they weren't frauds, then their space brothers would make contact with them the same way that the Players made contact with Billy Meyer. I mean, this attack is kind of silly, but I'm thinking, could it be that they know that they're lying when they say that? They know that the people they're bashing are frauds. They're just saying they're frauds because they want to encourage other secret space program personnel to come out of the woodwork, because a lot of people have experienced the same things that you have and others have, and they don't want to talk about it. But somehow, some way, you got to get in the courage to do it. And sometimes just saying all the secret space program personnel are frauds may be a way to do it. Do you think that's?
I think there are a lot of people who think it's made up and they're LARPing, live action role play. They think it's a game, so they're out there making it up as they go. That's actually really dangerous, because this is a real thing. And the more they LARP, the more they undermine those of us who were really there. There are ways to tell if someone was real. And I use those for people that I interview. And yeah, a couple of people have fooled me anyway, because I don't do readings. The last time I connected with a person to do that kind of work, it turned out she had been sent by the DOD to kill me that way. And so it's an opening that I don't want to have. But the real ones, they have a sense of confusion and anger, and they're really, really tired most of the time. We come back and we're split. And so none of the alters have full strength. So you'll find that the real ones have this edginess. We're anxious or depressed or both at the same time. We feel guilty about the things our alter did that we had no control over, because it's another consciousness. Well, another mind anyway. It's a fragment of our mind that's operating separately. So we have no control over it. And, as I've reintegrated these, that's the thing I've had the most trouble with, was what they did in their time. I have one altar that blew up planets. That was her job, blowing up planets. Those folks, people, they're just as smart as we are. They're just sitting there living their own lives. Didn't do anything wrong except stop paying their taxes to the Draco. and they were just blown out of the sky. And since I've reintegrated her, I can hear those people's screams in my head all the time. So yeah, I'm not going to be some cheerful, happy-go-lucky person with a high vibe that makes everybody happy, because I'm haunted by those people that I killed. And yeah, they may have had lizard bodies, they may have had insectoid bodies, they may have been snails for all I know. But I hear their minds screaming as they died. So the real ones are going to have these problems. If they come in and they're happy-go-lucky and they'll go, oh yeah, we stomped the Germans. Sorry, that doesn't happen. We kicked the Draco out of the system. Sorry, the Draco have been here before there were humans. You haven't kicked them out, they're still here. What we've got going is a program called V2K. And it is a synthetic telepathy that goes over your Wi-Fi. And it dials just like a radio, and they can set it to your personal frequency or anyone that's close. If it's just you, you're the only one that hears it. So everybody around you thinks you're nuts. If they make it a little wider, everybody else gets to hear it too. Or feel it, because it's not always words. Sometimes it's emotions. Now, that's why I wear, when I'm not on air, I wear this goofy cap. It's a nylon knit skull cap with ground nickel in it to block the Wi-Fi. Now, if all these people that were channeling wore one of those while they were channeling, I might listen to them. V2K came out in the 80s. You're probably not old enough to remember the Kuwaiti War, where the Iraqi soldiers would just lay down their weapons and surrender. The Americans were using V2K on them, broadband. They heard Allah tell them to surrender. And they've had centuries of brainwashing to do what Allah tells them. So they heard a voice, they didn't know about the technology, so they surrendered whole battalions at a time. That was in 1989. This has been used ever since. Each time they up the Wi-Fi, they make a bigger group that they're sending this stuff to. And this is why the channelers are basically telling the same story, is they're all listening to V2K. So if they tell me right from the get-go, well, I'm a channeler, I pretty much don't accept anything they say after that. I'll listen politely because I'm not a jerk. But I'm not going to take it seriously, because if they're channeling and they're not wearing a Wi-Fi blocker, they're only listening to the CIA. If I want to listen to the CIA, all I have to do is take my cap off. And I can tell you the same bullshit. And that is disinformation, because the CIA does not want this information to be believed. They haven't been able to stop us from talking. So they're watering down the message with all of this nonsense, made up stuff that is not real. So if you don't have someone saying, I was there and this is what I remember, don't listen to them. If they're channeling and they're not wearing an EMF blocker cap at the time, don't listen to them. Real ETs can get through the EMF blocker. If you're really channeling, you will still hear them.
Yes, and you say the Draco are still here. I thought the overlords were gone. It was been said that the Draco overlords, are gone from the system of control, and whatever's left is left on the Earth. Are there still Draco reptilians in bases on the Earth? And also around Grace.
The Draco have a base near base 211 in Antarctica. They've had it forever, before there were humans. They're still there. Base 211 was almost completely abandoned when the Germans built Neu Berlin on Mars. They moved their headquarters there. The Germans pretty much abandoned Earth. They came to the understanding that nobody here wanted them to survive. So they developed the technology and left. And if you look at their history, you'll understand why. They had 3,000 years of being targeted by people in Rome. First the Republic, then the emperors, then the Vatican. And there was a group called the Teutonic Knights that most people have never heard of, but they were similar to the Knights Templar, except their crusade, they sat in Prussia and destroyed everything east up until the King of Poland stopped them. And so for about 400 years, they had a reign of terror in Eastern Europe. And whenever you have Catholic monks destroying your territory, you pretty soon learn to hate those folks. And once they got through with the Teutonic Knights, because the King of Poland pretty much wiped them out, then the Inquisition came through. And they had entire regions that there were no people. Just like after World War II, there were entire regions of Germany where there were no men, to the point that they had to import people from the Middle East to be able to rebuild their country. The population in Germany today is nothing like what it was before World War II. And Germany, the country, is still an occupied state. It is still occupied by the four allies: America, Britain, France, and Russia. It's still occupied. They don't get to do anything without permission. And Biden could nuke Berlin right now and nobody would say a word, because they were never given a peace treaty. Legally, we're still in World War II, 70 years later.
Well, people are going to debate as to what World War is. I mean, some people say World War II is just a continuation of World War One, but
yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, and Cliff High has actually said we already had a World War III, and I don't remember exactly what the details were with his.
I can see that too. That would be the proxy wars that have gone on for the last 70 years.
Yes.
The rest of the world thinks that was World War III.
Yes, depends on how you look at it, I guess. So, well, the important thing, we want to get some peace on Earth, and are
The
we going to?
trouble is our leaders don't. They don't want peace on Earth. They want depopulation and they want the arms manufacturers to make money. They want the bankers to make money. And arms manufacturers and bankers only make money during war. They don't know how to have a peacetime economy. They just flat don't know how.
And we need to find a way to do that, of course. Um,
Yeah, but it requires that we, the people, take control back. And most people, as long as they have a roof over their heads, food in their bellies, and clothes on their back, they're not going to revolt. That's
so
just
how?
reality. No, why they have what they need for their own survival, and they really don't care about anybody else. And I'm sorry to sound like Debbie Downer, but that has been put in my face since I came public. People don't care that I was kidnapped out of my bed as a 4-year-old by American military. Well, you had to imagine that. It had to be ETs. No, it was American military kidnapped me. They worked for military laboratories then, which has morphed over the years into DARPA. And if you think all these guys are not working together and interrelated, they change every program they have, they change the name every 5 to 10 years, and they might change who signs the checks, but the programs just keep going.
And so much, so many people are not aware of what's going on regarding the plots that they are in, and need to know information and compartmentalization and all the rest of it. So, but
The mind control stuff started in the 1850s too. Do you remember watching the show The Wild Wild West?
I did not watch that. But
It was a TV show. It was a campy comedy about these two guys that were Secret Service agents and traveling, and they were looking for crazy German scientists doing weird experiments. There were crazy German scientists doing weird experiments in robotics and mind control and exotic propulsion systems and trying to figure out how to build a craft. All of that was going on in the era between the California Gold Rush and World War I. And if you look back through the newspapers, you will find all kinds of reports about ships that would land, and the occupants would talk to the locals and show them the ship, and they had electric lights and electric refrigeration, and that they were, they'd have to stop and recharge their batteries, and then they'd get up and go again. In the 1880s and 90s. They start in California, where the Sonora Aero Club was, and they go east. And then you start seeing these same kind of reports in Europe. And by World War I, you're not seeing them anymore because the ships made their way from California Gold Rush, the area where I live. They made their way from here back to Prussia, where the scientists came from.
Yes, and of course the Cold War was all it's our German scientists against your German scientists, and they still have influence to this very day. Jim Marrs with his book, The Rise of the Fourth Reich. That's one book that I don't think I've ever actually, of all the books I read that he wrote, I don't think I read that one. Maybe I should, because it's still.
I read it, and he is still filtering through the American propaganda that the Germans were evil. That's one of the things that I keep hitting up against is, in my view, the Germans were just people who were paranoid because for 3,000 years, people from Rome had tried to kill them. So they'd gotten a bit paranoid about it. And, you take a look at Americans when we talk about Russians, we're a bit paranoid. Russians, when they talk about us, they're a bit paranoid. And it's from government propaganda for the last 100 years. Set aside all the propaganda and just look at each other as people. Because that's what we are. We're people. Think about if you were in that position, how would you react? That's the first thing we have to start doing, is thinking about this person that the government says is our enemy. They're just another person like us. Why are they doing what they're doing? Now, yeah, there are some folks out there who are more service to self, and other folks that are more service to others. This culture is mostly service to self. It's what's in it for me. Now, if you assume everybody else is what's in it for me, and they're not acting appropriately for that, then you need to start looking into why. Seriously. If they're spending all of their efforts trying to destroy you, you have to look at what have you done to them in the past, even if it was unknowing.
Yes, karma has to be resolved, of course, and everything that we do for the better will resolve karma faster, which will speed up our freedom. And the bad guys, well, how much more karma can they create for themselves before they finally lose power? Who knows? I don't know.
Okay, something you need to know in their religion.
Yes.
In their religion, if they tell you ahead of time what they're going to do, and it can be in fiction. So if they write a book, do a movie, even put it in a song, what they're going to do, and you don't say no, you've agreed to a contract where they are now compelled to go through with that, and all of the karma is on you, not them. So people need to start saying no. You watch a movie, you don't like what they're talking about, you say no. New Age is wrong. You have to say no, or you have agreed to it.
I don't think you could have said it any better. At this point, though, the rest of this interview will be pay-per-view only. Please subscribe to Patreon if you wish to get the rest of this interview. We'll go for maybe another 15 minutes or so.